What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And this isn't going to be a long video. I just want to vent real quick, get something off my chest. So there's a lot of clown content out there, right? And in particular, you have these individuals with very large platforms, get hundreds of thousands of views on all their videos. And because supposedly they've done a little time here or there, they have become some type of an authority figure on all things related to prison everywhere and people going to prison, and they tend to jump on high publicity cases and then spin this entirely fictitious narrative. Like it's all fiction, just woven out of thin air bullshit to get clicks and views. And salute to them for having their lane, right? I'm not necessarily mad at that, but I'm just gonna tell you guys the truth. Okay, and clarify some things, because a lot of people watch those videos and they don't know any better. So all they know is, hey, this guy went to prison and now he's talking about what it's going to be like in prison for this person. Well, he knows more than I do, so he must be telling the truth. And the reality is, a good handful of these guys are not. They're not. Like I said, it's a fiction channel. It's clown shit, right? And They did this with the whole Danny Masterson thing, and the green lights and the this, and he was assaulted, and which none of that stuff ever happened, right? None of that was true. But they'll run content every single day, just making up stories, and people tune in with fascination, and then I wind up getting comments and questions about what they're saying. And I'm not talking about people in the California prison genre. I'm talking about some out-of-state folks, or I'll say something, and then my favorite is, no, man, that's not true because I heard on so-and-so's channel, he said this. Okay, well, he's lying to you, right? He's lying to you. And the most recent example of that is this Carmelo Anthony case. So this dude, and I did a video with some of my thoughts about the whole self-defense angle, right? It is, for those that don't know, it's the black kid, the 17-year-old who stabbed and ended the life of the white kid, Austin Metcalf, at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. And whatever else may be true or not true, it has become a very racialized event, right? Far more racialized than I think the actual incident was. I don't think race was at the center of the conflict, but it is certainly at the center of the narrative. And you have a bunch of people that are just race-baiting profiteers, that are drawing these grand conclusions and everything else off very little information, and a lot of times information that's not even fucking true, because clicks and views, right? Because it gets attention and it kind of feeds their narrative, and it tickles the ear of the people that watch their channel because of political beliefs or whatever. And again, it's happening on both sides, right? No one side is handling it the right way. But it is what it is. That's its own story. That's not what this video is about. But so, because of the high publicity, you now have some of these guys who are saying, hey, what's going to happen to Carmelo Anthony if he goes to prison in Texas? And I think there's a good chance that the kid does some time. I think if he did a life sentence, that would be ridiculous, right? But there's probably a good chance that he does some time. We don't know. We don't actually know a lot about the case. We have very little information. We have a couple witness statements. So who knows how it plays out, But why wait for facts when you can just talk a bunch of shit, right? So we'll see what the facts show. But odds are, at least the way it's looking now with what limited information we have, it'll probably do a little time. So these dudes do these videos, right? And they all kind of piggyback off each other, right? And it's like, oh, well, so-and-so said. Okay, but so-and-so was lying. So you're not doing your own homework. You're just piggybacking like, well, since he lied, I can lie too. And it make it seem like it's credible. It really is, like I said, it's kind of annoying, right? It's kind of annoying. It's kind of obnoxious. Not something I'm going to lose sleep over. But when I see it in my feed, I was like, oh, here we go. And so these guys are saying Karmelo Anthony has had a green light put on him by the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. And when he goes to prison, he's going to be grabbing somebody's pocket. And all this other old weird-ass clown shit. So let me clarify for you guys. And no, I've never done time in the state of Texas. Though I do talk to a handful of people who have. Tim Snow obviously is a friend of mine. Shout out Texas Prison Stories. But I've talked to other folks that have done time in Texas and of different races and different groups. And the one thing that is universal amongst all of them is the white dudes in the Texas prison system just aren't really a factor. You know, the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas has a name, they have a legacy. There's some pictures floating around on the internet, right, that get a lot of attention. And the Southern Poverty Law Center and everybody else kind of points them out. And sure, they've been indicted a bunch for criminal activity in the streets and doing stuff in the streets. But in terms of the Texas prison system, they're just not a factor. The reality is no real prison gangs are a factor in the Texas prison system anymore. Like, that's the whole Dongo culture, right? So the TS, the MA, the AB, like the ABT, like it's not specific to them, and it's not because of their race. It's just there's a lot more sensationalism about them online than there is really their footprint behind the wall. And those who are really about that life, or those who mark their body in a way that suggests that they're about that life, they get slammed down. They get slammed down. So the ones that are left walking around, they mind their own business, right? It's Texas is just different. And while white folks make up the majority outside of prison in Texas, they certainly do not make up the majority in prison. And so their numbers are low. They're not really affiliated like that. And again, I'm not suggesting that there's no tough guys in the group. There's nobody with the business. There's people with the business. There's tough guys. There's killers in every race and every group and every gang and every, however you want to define it. That's also true for there not being tough, right? There's folks that are not built like that are in every race and every group and every gang and everything else. And it's just a real misconception that the ABT is a factor in the Texas Department of Corrections. They're not. And it's not because of their race. They're just not really a factor. And the white dudes that do hang out there, they mind their own and they do their own thing, and they're outnumbered 7 to 3, right? Like 70, almost 80% of the Texas prison system is non-white. So it is what it is. But this whole thing of Carmelo Anthony coming in and he's going to be grabbing pockets. No, he's not. No, he's not. Now, what's much more likely is the black folks, particularly from Dallas, because I believe Frisco's a suburb of Dallas. So there's a lot of black people doing time from Dallas, right? And they might press him, be curious about him, who he is, who his family is, what he's up to. It's well publicized that his family has money. That money didn't come just from the donations, right? Newsflash, there are also middle and upper middle class black families in this country. Not everybody's in the hood. And they're definitely one of them, right? There was a financially stable, 2-parent household that he grew up in. So he ain't from the hood, but the hood might come to him, might be curious about him. It is true in California. I think it's true in Texas. I can't speak for other states, but I'm sure it's true in other states as well, at least some. The people most likely to kind of get on your helmet are people who look like you. That's your biggest kind of risk. That's your biggest threat. Is you come into prison, well, you fall in this racial category. So other races ain't really, at least like I said in California, other races ain't really gonna mess with you because you're not their people. So they're not. If you come into the prison system in California, if you're a white guy, you ain't got to worry about no black dude running up in your cell and taking your shit. It's not going to happen, right? You're not even going to think about it. And vice versa, right? You got to worry about some white guy running up into a black guy's cell and taking all stuff. It doesn't work that way, right? And not because of fear or cowardice or who's tough or who's not. It's just that's not how it works, right? But your own people pressing you, that happens sometimes, sure, right? And because who are you going to go to for help, right? If you're unaffiliated and you're just kind of on the margins, who's going to help you, right? It's easier, you know, you get away with kicking your own kids a lot more than you do get away with kicking somebody else's kids. And we see that play out. And again, it's a whole separate story, but the ABT, perhaps they did put a green light on him, but that don't fucking matter. They ain't gonna do shit. Right now in the streets, like I said, they're a little more of a factor. They've been indicted a bunch of times and criminal activity and everything else. But and I'm not suggesting that everybody in the ABT is a weenie or anything of such. It's just that's not how their prison system works. So this whole story is built on a lie. It's built on stereotypes and stigmas and what people outside think. It's not built on reality. So you're not really informing people. You're misleading them, if anything else. What would happen, just to kind of wrap this up, what would happen if Carmelo Anthony came to the California Department of Corrections, right? And I know white guys are a factor in California Department of Corrections, right? Every group is a factor. Every group has their section and their stuff. And of course, the end of hostilities has led to a lot more mingling. But even prior to the mingling, wasn't nobody taking no tables from anybody else. Wasn't nobody doing any of that stuff, right? That was all fought for by these different groups many years prior. And lines were drawn. And unless you were one of the people that's establishing a new yard, if you're on one of the first buses on a yard, then yeah, you're fighting over tables and sections of who's going to be where and who's going to be there. But if you pull up to a yard that's already established, that people have been at for a couple years or a couple decades, then it's already worked out. So if Carmelo Anthony was to pull up, let's say it all happened in California, and he pulls up to the California Department of Corrections, I know white dude's going to press him. And not from fear or intimidation or, oh, what are the black people going to do? But because why? Prison is its own world. And I think sometimes people out here want to believe that there's like more of an overlap than there is, or oh, they're going to get justice when you go to prison. If you don't have bad charges, you can walk around on a GP yard. Right now, if you get caught up in politics or whatever, that's your business. But it's, if you have charges against women and charges against children, I give a fuck what you look like. Somebody's going to come for you, right? In a general population environment. And it's going to be somebody who looks like you, right? Like every group cleans up their own garbage. They take out their own trash. And every group is willing to do that. Every race, that's how it goes. But what you did in the streets, if it did involve women and children and weirdo stuff, that's the streets. It don't matter. I've seen dudes come to prison with very petty, non-violent cases, and they become factors in prison, right? And just because they caught their case and their case wasn't serious doesn't mean that they're not built for that environment. And I've seen people that came into prison with bodies under their belt that are poodles, you know, and pucker up at the first sign of conflict and go to the other side. So the streets in prison is different. It's a different environment. You have plenty of people, right? There's plenty of black dudes walking around in the yard that killed or robbed or assaulted white people, and plenty of white people walking around in the yard that killed or robbed or assaulted black people. That's the streets. That's the streets. Prison is prison. And you stick with your own, and you look out for your own, and you don't let any other group invade on your own. And that's how it works. So again, might there be people in prison that are mad or they're upset or they would love to be able to get a chance to do something to Carmelo Anthony? Maybe on a personal level, personal feelings. But are you going to kick off a race riot over it? Is it that serious? 99.9% of the time, it's not. It's not, right? It just isn't like that. And so, again, I don't want to make this video too long, but be mindful. You know, be mindful of the stuff that you watch. And it's crazy to me that some of the channels that have the most subscribers and the most views, you know, I had talked about the Johnny Mitchell Connect dude bullshitting on an interview that he had done, you know, recently. And like, they just come on here and lie to you guys. And I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments, what's the draw? Do you think people just watch for entertainment and they're not concerned with facts, with it being factually accurate? Like, I know this dude's bullshitting, but it's funny. I like the presentation, or I like the clowning, or it's, so they don't care if it's true or not. They just want to be entertained. Or do you think people watch videos like that and then walk away believing in the legitimacy of what they just heard? And again, just because somebody's been to prison, and this is just, I think, across the board, right? YouTube or otherwise. Not all folks that have been to prison are the same. Not everybody had the same experience. Not everybody did their time the same way. Not everybody did their time in the same environment. And that's true within each state, let alone comparing, different states and stuff. So having a prison number doesn't mean that you necessarily know what you're talking about. I choose to speak kind of within my experience and within my knowledge base, and do my homework before I say things. Others clearly don't, right? And again, that's fine. I guess if it's just about entertainment, then so be it. I'm trying to do something a little different over here, and understand that my lane is not going to reach those heights, right? Because I don't really do the stuff that is necessary to get there. I don't do the skits and the pretending I've been through this and all that. And overall, in general, being in prison doesn't make you cool. Having been in prison, that don't make you cool. That don't make you a shot caller. That don't make you a tough guy. That means that you broke a law and you got caught and you went to court and they sent you to the joint. That's all it fucking means. And in my opinion, most of the time, right, unless you're in a Cain Velasquez type situation, it also means that you failed at life, right? And hopefully you get a chance to come out and have a do-over, So anyways, help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. We'll stay tuned to the case. We'll see what happens. I don't have a lot more to say on it until they go to trial, right? Like until more evidence comes out. But chasing all these little social media blog shit that people post, half the time it's not true. But I'm not going to come on here every day and point out other people's bullshit. Every once in a while, though, it just kind of strikes a nerve. So there you have it, man. Stay tuned. You guys tune in. I was speaking of Texas prison stories earlier. Tune in to Texas prison stories tonight. I don't know exactly what time, to be honest, but Brant Two Scoop Daniel, who I had on my channel the other day, and I'll have on my channel again probably before the end of the week. He went over there with Tim Snow and had a conversation. They're going to do a part 2 today. So I suggest you guys check it out. And who knows, it'll be pre-recorded, I think, so you won't really be able to ask questions. But, there's a white dude that's done time in California, right? Done all his time in California. And there's just some differences. I think that's safe to say, regardless of, names could be similar, but anybody can call themselves whatever they want, right? That doesn't mean that it's all the same. So I'll leave it at that. I don't know if they're going to touch on it tonight or not. But you guys have a good one, man. Stay tuned. Take care.